We have another week of hot takes. Remember to leave yours in the comments, but don't write a ginormous essay. Keep it with like 1 or 2 sentences, and we'll maybe feature it in next week's episode. All right, this week, here we go. First hot take of the week is the addition of new characters and future balance changes or reworks may introduce new comps that aren't defined as dive, brawl, or poke, or possibly becoming a hybrid of these existing comps. Don't even think this is a hot take at all, because when you add new characters and new heroes and balances and reworks, it'll always create, you know, new abilities that can fall into the major 3 styles. I don't know if we can create any more styles beyond this, because dive, brawl, and poke at its base, or dive is just like, you know, move very fast, close the gap. Brawl is like close range fighting, and poke is like medium to long range fighting. Maybe like a 4th archetype is like a pure anti-dive, but that's like such a situational kind of a composition you run. But other than that, everything should be kind of defined as that, or already is a hybrid of those 3. You say possibly become a hybrid of the existing comps, but hybrids already exist. For example, Baptiste can be played in both poke, like with Sigma comps, or brawl, like with Ramatra or Orisa compositions. Tracer as a hero can fit into all 3. Sojourn can kind of play with brawl, poke, and even arguably sometimes dive. You kind of just slide in and go, go, go. Next hot take is Junkrat is not bad. People don't realize the value he gets beyond the 2-shot combo. Depends on the elo you play in. I think the kill confirmation is incredible value at high levels, and the fact that he can no longer do that is a big gut to his value there. He can still definitely get away with being annoying at most ranks, and you can probably still hit top 500 with a Junkrat hero right now, but even all the top junk mains are saying like he's just not in a great spot right now. He can get value beyond 2 shots, the 2-shot combo, but it's simply the best value at the highest levels, besides hitting like, you know, a 5-man tire. Like his neutral fight beyond having his ultimate is much weaker now. The hottest of hottest takes: the best way to counteract zimming, merge PC and console pools. Okay, I'm gonna stop you there because they just announced like 2 days ago. I can see this was 6 days ago when we took this screenshot. They just announced what they're doing with zimming, and it's on this channel. We can link the post in the description. But zimming already, if you get caught with a unregistered peripheral device, you already get put into a different pool. If you don't stop zimming now, you get a 1-week penalty from comp, and then afterwards you're honestly always going to be put into a PC pool, if I'm not mistaken, or any sort of pool that with no aim assist. Cage fight is the sole reason I fear 6v6. Cage fight being Mauga's ultimate. With how much closer together comps are in 6v6, cage fight would fundamentally shatter the format to an unfixable degree. You could say play more spaced out comps, but in 6v6, when was there a meta comp where you had to spread out in the history of the game? Cage fight exploits the flaws of 6v6 to the nth degree. Zarya? Maybe? I would say Zarya was one where you have to play spaced out a little bit more, or at least the threat of grab was always present. When you play against Mauga, you have to anticipate or respect the idea that he might have cage soon, so you don't want to engage him too close. Same with Zarya. When you know the grab is coming, it's like, don't clump. If you know the cage fight is coming with good team comms, you can play spread out a little bit. So I'm not sure this will exploit the flaw of it to the nth degree. And another counterpoint is if you do have 6v6, an extra hero adds more DPS or more damage that you can output to break Mauga's cage fight, if that was the reason. So I find it interesting how you find this is the only reason you fear 6v6, putting Mauga in a 6v6 environment, when very evidently you can just balance around that too. You can tweak numbers if we were to go back to 6v6, tweak the amount of HP the cage fight has or anything else. So it sounds like a pretty interesting take. There's no reason whatsoever for the old 2 CP maps to not be in the unranked pool of maps. Not allowing them in comp and balance around 6v6 are not valid reasons. I mean, I would say this is a pretty hot take because there is a reason. The reason is because it's not going to be a game mode they're looking into and fine-tuning or balancing for any means. It's an unofficial mode now, so it actually is in arcade. I know you say the unranked pool of maps because you want it in quick play, but you can definitely still access it in arcade pretty regularly. They have assault weeks where you just play the assault maps in a 5v5 environment. The game mode definitely has its flaws, especially in the 5v5 environment with tanks being so much harder to kill. The stalling is still there. The spawn point distances were all flawed. You can also play it in custom game modes right now if you want. So custom and the weekly, once in a while, weekly rotation in arcade. And again, the only reason they don't want an unranked because it's not, you know, looked at anymore. It's not an official one. They don't want to endorse it as an official one, so it stays as a casual arcade mode. Okay, next hot take. Sniper characters are a requirement to have a balanced FPS game. Widow, Hanzo, and Ashe all serve the purpose of denying rush comps in much the same way that the AWP from Counter-Strike prevents rush tactics from being used every round. It forces a change in playstyle that many people, and myself included, sometimes find annoying, but without them, it would devolve into who can smash their face the hardest into the other team. I agree. I think sniper characters are iconic in any first-person shooter. You definitely want sniping characters, like you say, the AWP or the operator in Valorant as well. Poke, in general, can slow down a lot of brawl if they take too much damage, if they're not just smashing their face that quickly. And I think it leads into a nice mix and hybrid of compositions you can create with Widow, Hanzo, and Ashe comps. They're not picked every game right now. I think they're actually in a pretty good balance point where you can certainly play it if you want, but it's not a necessary pick right now, and they work in many cases. So yeah, I don't think this is a hot take. Hot take, tank diversity is super overrated in Overwatch 2. When both teams have tanks that are willing to counter swap every time they see the spawn room, the best strategy as a DPS or support is to just play a jack of all trades like a Sojourn, Tracer, or KarQ, and I find it really boring. Because tanks are so integral to the team, simply swapping from Orisa to Winston changes the game completely, even though 4 out of the 5 heroes are the same, so you can't take risks playing niche DPS or supports unless your team is fully willing to commit. I kind of agree with this. I remember seeing a long time ago when Overwatch 2 came out about like teaching about tank, support, DPS, and what's the most important hero to pick. I've always said it's tank. I remember watching Yeatle, a great friend of mine in the community. We made many videos together, but I disagreed with this take saying the most important picks are your supports. I've always said the most important pick on your team is the tank, because the tank determines what kind of play style you play. This person's right, I actually think. If you play Orisa or Winston, it changes your dynamic on how you approach the game way more. And because there's 2 supports or two damage heroes, you're able to kind of play like a flex hybrid that kind of fits into any comp, which is why a lot of people were saying Lucio and KarQ need nerfs, because they are one size fits all. You can play Lucio KarQ with any archetype of tank right now. You can play Lucio KarQ with Orisa, you can play it with Sigma, you can play it with Winston, same with Tracer and same with Sojourn right now. Those are the 2 top picks because they're extremely flexible, they're a jack of all trades, and they work with adjusting to anything. You say you find it boring. I sort of agree because yeah, like I've been stuck on KarQ jail for the last like season and a half, especially since the HP buffs in season 9. We've seen a couple of different metas. Early season 9, I remember it was Mauga. Then it went to Junker Queen for a bit. Then I was playing KarQ. Then it went to Sigma for a bit. I was playing KarQ. I did this all in the OWCS, by the way. Emong was my main tank. We scrimmed all the different types of tanks. I just had to play KarQ every single time. Occasional Baptiste, but it's just easier to play KarQ because they always had a Tracer. And always having a Tracer, Baptiste doesn't fight Tracer as well as KarQ. So it's less about tank diversity and also taking a look at those heroes right now. Sojourn, Tracer, KarQ, like you listed, and I think Lucio. Look at those first before we talk about tanks. Hot take, weapon skins were a mistake. Not only do weapon skins not gel with a lot of character skins already in the game, but character skins already gave us new looks for our weapons, while also changing other things like certain voice lines and even ability visuals and audio. Weapon skins alter weapon noises, but let's be serious, skins could easily do that if they wanted. They just seem like a way for them to implement ideas they couldn't build a whole skin around, which is fine from a creative standpoint. From a player perspective, I don't see a reason to spend on something that sticks out like a weird looking sore thumb. There's plenty more worthwhile stuff you could spend either currency on. I also just hate the process behind it's a first person, so character skins aren't worth it when you hear and see them relatively often compared to other FPS character skins. I mean, I respect your opinion where you say you don't see a reason to spend on something that sticks out, and I agree some weapon skins are a little, they only have 2. The Hard Light, which doesn't match certain heroes, and they also have Los Muertos right now for what, Junkrat and Soldier, which have like different sound effects and everything. And you said from a creative standpoint, that's fine, and I also agree. But you also said that you don't see a reason to spend on it, and that's totally fine. I would say don't spend on it. And the fact that you can unequip it and use the natural hero skin as well is pretty cool. The only suggestion I would give Blizzard is like if you do opt to buy a weapon skin, like have the option as well in the character select screen to swap that as well. Because right now you can swap skins between rounds and at the beginning of games. You should also be able to swap weapon skins if we're going to sell those as individual cosmetics, if you want to mix and match. But yeah, I mean, you're just saying you don't want to spend it, and I would say don't. I think it's a hot take to say it was a mistake, because it's not. They're able to generate sales. There's people that are definitely interested in it, and it just doesn't, this cosmetic doesn't make sense to you, then just don't buy it. Like for me, I never buy souvenirs. I don't buy emotes because I don't really emote, and I don't buy, I only buy some skins on heroes I like, and that's it. But I'm not going to tell what you should spend your money on, what you shouldn't. Not a hot take. Okay. Hero win percentage doesn't mean anything if it's low. What I mean is if we look at win percentages for heroes and see that it's 47 to 49%, it doesn't necessarily mean the character is bad. Orisa has the second lowest win percentage of all tanks over the past year. Dev said in the patch notes that Orisa wouldn't be getting a nerf as the win percentage for her was too low. Widow's win percentage is very low compared to other DPS, but does that mean she needs a buff? Even Sojourn, the character that has been regarded as always being meta or extremely good, but if we look at her win percentage, she's one of the lowest of all DPS, along with Bastion and Sombra. Now for the reverse, if a character's win percentage is high, most of the time they are in fact actually good. Most of the time. Outliers like Rein and Genji exist, but are far in between. In general, hero's win percentage isn't a good talking point when it comes to balance. Sort of agree, it isn't a good talking point, but it is a valid talking point. It should be one of the multifaceted and many reasons when we look at hero balance. And they've also said that while win percentage, whether it's low or high, is one of the factors, it's never the end all and be all, if I'm using that term correctly. You have to also look at player perception, fun factor, unmirrored win rate, which is not public. There's no way we as a community know what an unmirrored win rate is. So for example, if you have a Sojourn on one team, a Sojourn on the other team, because if they're always meta, it's always going to be 50%. So naturally, heroes that are more popular will always be closer to 50%. So you have to find matches where it's unmirrored, so there's no duplicate of the same hero matching up on the other team, so you can get a better argument for it. There were a couple of Blizzard articles where they revealed some early unmirrored win rates like over a year and a half ago, but they haven't done it in a long time. So nobody publicly will ever know this number. So never look at the win rates on Overbuff or any sort of public tracking, because that's only grabbing it from the Blizzard API, which only shows public profiles. So you're missing all the data from private profiles, and you're missing all the unmirrored win rates and all the nitty-gritty data analysis that you can only get if you actually work at Blizzard. So it should always just be one of the many factors when looking at hero balance, both publicly and internally. Probably not a hot take, but now that they made anti-heal less of a problem, they got rid of Ana's 3-shot, and Sleep Dart is now weaker due to more health. I actually think Ana deserves her 100 burst healing and 75 damage or healing per shot back. If not 100 burst healing, then maybe 80. Also, Junk deserves to get his one-shot combo back. I sort of agree, maybe because I'm a biased Ana main. I actually don't think she needs the 100 burst healing, but 75 damage per shot or healing would be kind of nice on her shot, because she isn't like super meta. She's still acceptable right now, so like maybe it's not like a high priority for them to do anything. A hero like Junkrat probably needs to get looked at more so, even though the data on their end, like the previous hot take was saying, if we look at the win percentage, Junkrat is doing just fine, but I will be honest, even as someone who hates Junkrat and Junkrat connoisseurs, as someone who's an advocate for like good hero balance and a balanced game and everyone's hopefully happy, you can't please everybody, but we can try our best to get to that goal. I'll advocate for the Junk players. I've said this in a previous hot take, but one thing that could make Junkrat less cheesy in the low ranks but make him still good in the high ranks is you can give him his 2-shot combo back, or they call it 1-shot, but really it's 2 abilities, shot and a concussive mind. You can give that back, especially with the new HP buffs, but like make his spam style less cheesy. So if when you spam into the open, and every bounce of the grenade makes the nade do a little bit less damage each bounce. It could be like logarithmic drop off, so it's not as like crazy. If it bounces 6 times, it does like 40 damage. That's a little too much of a drop off, but just like a slight taper, so it doesn't feel as annoying. Junkrat, like hitting air shots is actually kind of cool, and it should be rewarded because it's a very skillful action to hit. So if you have to hit 3 shots in the fair versus 2 for the 1-shot, that's actually like so much better for the Junk player, and it rewards good skill for like good prediction aim. I think that's a good trade-off, a refined trade-off to help advocate for the Junk mains. Hot take, I think Blizzard's balancing act of is this hero fun to play versus is this hero fun to play against needs to be reevaluated. I have no doubt people enjoy playing stuff like Mei, Sim, Bastion, etc., but I would rather go against players like Widow, and rather than getting W-keyed on every game by a character that has abilities that go through Deflect, Grasp, or DM. I think this is subjective for any person. You say you'd rather play against Widow and you'd rather not play against Mei, Sim, Bastion. I would rather play against a Mei or Bastion, maybe not so much Sim, than play against a Widow. So this is too much subjective kind of perception. I think they remove Mei's like, you know, like stun on this when you just get frozen up in front. Like that was actually super annoying. The fact that that's gone, I don't mind Mei as much. It really just depends on the hero you play specifically. Maybe you're just a tank player. That's why you hate Mei, Sim, Bastion. But if you're like a tank player like Rein, then Widow doesn't matter against you, and then you just hate those. But maybe because I'm a support player as a Baptiste, I don't care about Mei as much because I can just jump over the wall as Baptiste, or Bastion because I can shoot him as Baptiste or Discord him. So this is too subjective of this Blizzard's balancing act of is this hero hero fun to play at? Is this hero fun to play against? It doesn't need to be reevaluated. It's just a basic matter of what role you main. So you think it needs to be reevaluated? I disagree. I just don't think it just depends on who you play. That's it. All right, let's do one final one. Of course, it's for Genjis. All right. Genji was already hard to play. He's not an easy hero. I agree. But Season 9 made him indisputably the hardest in the game. Slow down there. So many heroes can counter him, and the accuracy you need to secure kills is way too high compared to other divers like Tracer and Sombra. Okay, so obviously with Season 9, everybody had the HP buffs. But one thing that Genji benefited from this is obviously he's also HP buffed. His shuriken projectile size got a lot bigger because they also buffed all the projectile sizes. Remember, that was a 2-part buff in Season 9 that shifted everything. The fact that his projectile size got so much bigger arguably made it easy, evened out the balance there, or if not, made it easier to always land all 3 right clicks or secondary fires. I don't know what the button is on controller in enemy heroes mass hitbox. It was literally, if you're up in their face, all 3 shurikens were going to hit no matter what because of how big the projectiles got. In fact, Genji ended up becoming meta quite early on in Season 9, and he's still pretty pickable right now, if you ask me. He became less pickable when people were playing Moira, but because there's less Moira now, I still think Genji's pretty good. And I think when you say he's undisputably the hardest in the game, this just sounds like a skill issue. He's definitely not the hardest in the game to play by any means. He can be quite annoying when playing against many counters, but there's many heroes that suck when they play against 3 or 4 counters. He's one of those heroes that has to get in close, so you have to be very careful. And if you're just running into a 1v5, that's your issue and not the hero's issue. I think Genji's pretty good right now. Pretty damn good. All right, that's it for the hot takes. Thanks for submitting yours. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next week. Ciao.